David. So, Amanda, let's talk a little bit today. I'd like to talk about a topic that we've gone over in the past, but I'd like to talk about it because it's kind of a topic that takes place oftentimes during the summer months. It does also happens during some of the other months, but in the summer months, people have a tendency to run into sometimes dogs and animals that are not really being taken care of properly and have a vicious propensity. Yes. So one of the things that we try to explain to people, and Amanda, we've talked about on the show, is that you don't just have a case because you happen to have been bitten by a dog. That's simply not the case. Right. What do we have to show, Amanda, in order for there to be a viable claim with respect to a dog and an incident?
So like you said before, there has to be a vicious propensity, meaning the dog has to have either bitten someone prior to biting you, or they showed some type of aggressive behavior that would have warranted them, being on notice.
Now, that's interesting because I know a lot of people think that it has to have bitten you first, right, to show vicious propensity. And what Amanda said is absolutely 100% correct, that there's ways to show that viciousness without actually there being a bite. So we've had cases where we've had dogs who would get up on their hind legs, whether on a front door and growl.
A fence.
We've had cases where the dog has to be restrained, actually, okay? Right. And so somebody has to have them or has them in a muzzle because this dog is a dog that is really not good with people and good in situations where people are there. We've had cases where, from a timing standpoint, you could have it where the dog has shown this vicious propensity for a great period of time. But it doesn't mean if it's a short period of time that you don't necessarily have a case. It really all depends. So I've had cases where people are working and they're employed in, let's say they go into somebody's house to cut their hair. I had one recently where a gentleman was doing blinds and measuring for blinds in this person's house. And the first case where the person was cutting their hair, when she first came into the house, what happened was the dogs were there and they were clearly sort of aggressive, but the homeowner and the person who lived there put the dogs into a separate room. And when my client got done doing her job, she was leaving the house, and unfortunately the homeowner opened up the door where these animals were. And the animals came down and started coming after her. And our argument is that they were aware of the vicious propensity literally when she first got there, because she had to restrain those animals.
Right. You put them away for a reason.
Right. You put them away for a reason. And clearly there was a problem.
Right.
And so we didn't have to show that was happening over a course of years or days. Sometimes it's literally just that time. So we all got to use common sense. If we have an animal and the animal is showing that viciousness, you have to restrain the animal. Okay.
Right. And again, it's the growling, it's the getting up on the hind legs. It's not just barking, because if it was barking, every dog would apply probably.
Right. And Amanda and I, we both have our own dogs and we love our dogs. But everybody has to recognize that each animal has a unique personality. And simply because your animal would not do something, or would do something, doesn't mean that someone else's animal will or won't do something. So you have to take responsibility personally for your animal. And if you don't do that, the law says there are consequences. And I've had some cases where there's been significant injuries. I mean, really bad. I mean, you could get bit in the face. Yep. You can get bit in the arm. I had one person was bit in the arm and lost a lot of the use of their one arm.
Right. You get a lot of nerve damage.
So you can get nerve damage. It does not mean in New York, simply because there's one type of breed, that automatically makes it vicious. And
yeah, that's a very good point. Just because your dog is a pit bull or something, doesn't mean automatically because the dog is barking or doing something that it has vicious propensity. Again, you have to show that. And like you said before, it doesn't have to be that the dog bit you before, but it could be the dog had a history where it bit someone else, and now that dog has shown vicious propensity.
Right. We've had it where We've had dogs that have been reported sometimes to the municipality, to the animal shelter. Other times we may not have that. We might have it where somebody or a neighbor or somebody on the block said, this dog chased me before. I had one case where the lady just happened to she walked down the block, and this dog had been known to go ahead and chase after people and go after them. And he had actually gone after the neighbor before. And I was able to then prove that my client was subjected to a dog that had a vicious propensity. He was bit, there was scarring, and we made a recovery for that. So if you think there's a situation, please give us a call. We look at each case on its own merit. We evaluate it. We want to be there for you. We want you to know that your voice can be heard and you're entitled to justice if, in fact, you fall within the parameters of what the law allows.